Hello and welcome to the third SolidWorks tutorial. Here I'm going to be talking a little bit about the linear boss extrude, the revolved boss extrude, and the swept boss extrude. These are going to be the best ways, or most common ways, to take your two-dimensional geometry and turn it into three-dimensional geometry. So the first thing that we would normally do, and notice we don't have any sketches, this is a blank document, so we would have to create one. There's actually another way to create a sketch. If we're in Features and we click the Extrude, you'll notice it actually asks us which plane we want, just like if we were creating a sketch. If we select one, then it opens our Sketch tab and created a sketch. So it knows that if we are making a boss extrude or another type of extrude, it knows we're going to need a sketch, and so you don't even have to tell it necessarily to make one. It'll just it'll prompt you in advance. So so you can just go straight into the extrude like that. All right, we'll make a quick sketch here. Doesn't matter too much what it is. I'm just going to set some dimensions here. I'll make this 1/2 inch, and I'll make this 1 inch, like that. I'm going to press escape. You can exit out of the Smart Dimension tool, so we can use some other tools. I'm going to add a little fillet on this side and do 1/4 inch fillet. And accept that. Here's a nice sketch, and that's all we need. Now if we hit exit, it will automatically bring us into the boss extrude, because if you remember at the beginning, we told it that's what we want. So we don't have to go through exit and then features and then boss extrude. I'm going to extrude this, well, let's say 2 inches, and that's our part. We made our sketch. We have our extrude. Pretty simple. And you can see over on the left that we now have two things inside each other. There's just one item here, the boss extrude. And if you open it up, we have our sketch inside, and the boss is using that to create the 3D geometry. So actually, we can go ahead, if we try to delete the boss extrude, just say yes, there we go. It actually just deleted the boss extrude, and we still have our sketch, which is nice. Now we can use it for other things. But when you delete a feature, it doesn't necessarily delete the sketch that's driving it. So there's a distinction between the sketch and the feature. Okay, so I'm actually going to do that again. So we can either have our sketch selected when we do the boss extrude, or if we have nothing selected, we'll have to tell it which sketch we want. There we go. And we've got some options in here. At first I just said this is really the only one we care about. And for now, we aren't really going to go much past this. I just want to show you that you can switch directions. We can go up or down. We've got some options here. These won't come into play until we have more 3D geometry already on our workspace. But this one we can use mid-plane. That just means our sketch is halfway in between the boss. Now it's going some on both sides. It's still 2 inches total, 1 inch on each side. If we go back to blind, this is the default. It just means it's going blindly 2 inches. It doesn't look for anything. It just goes 2 inches. We can draft. That's an option, but for simplicity, we'll just stick with straight. Direction 2, we could go up 2 inches. We can go down 1 inch. This would be more useful when we have other geometry that we're working around. For now, there's no reason to really just stick with a single direction, undrafted, but those options are there, and I'll be going into more detail as more things become relevant. So this just takes our sketch and goes along in a straight line for however much we want to create our solid part. But that's not the only way to take two-dimensional geometry to create three-dimensional geometry. I'm going to go ahead and delete this again. And instead, now we're going to go with the revolved extrude. So if you click on that, of course, it's going to ask us which sketch we want. We only have one, and we want this one. Now it's going to ask us for an axis of revolution, because rather than extruding straight, this is going to wrap around something. So we can choose any of our lines here. How about this one? I'll just go ahead and leave the default settings, hit the check to approve that. And just like before with the linear, if you open this up, you'll notice we have the sketch inside and the feature on the outside. And now we've got a circle. We could not make this with the boss extrude unless we got into some of these other tools. But we also have some other options with this. If we wanted, we can right click on our feature and edit it. Now we get back to this same menu that we had when we were creating this feature. We can change all kinds of things. Just like before, we have some of these. The blinds in mid-plane right now are all we can use until we have other geometry. But instead of changing how many inches or millimeters we want, we're just going to change the number of degrees. So how about 180? Oops, 18. Well, we can do that too. Showing us a preview of what that would look like. Just like before, we can change directions. We can do multiple directions, or we can do the mid-plane. Most of the time, just the blind, and set your angle. Let's do 180. And there we go. If we wanted to, we've already created our sketch, and we can see it right here. We can actually go back and edit this. This is one of the things that's so powerful about parametric modeling, is that we can go back and edit the sketch even after we have done our feature. It's still editable. So if we right click and edit the sketch, and we can see all these things that we had created. And I'm just going to change this radius right here. Double click on it and say, I actually want this to be 3/8. There we go. And exit the sketch. It automatically updates our part tree. So now the revolve, you notice this radius is a lot bigger, which is exactly what we wanted. And that will work with any of these extrudes, really any of these features. We can go back and edit our sketches. And then again, we could like right click on this, edit the feature, say we want to change something else. Like if we delete this axis and we use a different axis to revolve it about, then it updates just fine. It knows how to finish the rest of the part. Sometimes you'll get errors when you try to edit things. If you have lots of features going on, you have to learn how to work with them. But it is editable. It's not just like you extrude it and now the only way to get rid of it is to delete it, or you might have to add another extrude to change it. Nope, you can just go back and edit. It's very, very helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this again. Now we're back to just that original sketch. What I'm going to demonstrate next is this sweep. And for this, we can't just sweep and click on our sketch and say go. It's going to give us some errors. We actually need a second sketch for this. And so go back into our sketch. We're going to make one. And you'll notice it doesn't bring our planes back, our 3 planes, the default planes. It only will do that the first time. And in order to see them again, we can just open up this part tree right here. And for the sweep, this second sketch that we're creating is going to show the path that our profile is going to be extruded across. Rather than just a straight line or an arc, we can really do any path we want. So I'm going to select the front plane. You can choose whatever plane you need for that. But now we're ready to draw on this. But you see, we can't just orbit around until it kind of looks straight. I mean, we can, but you're never really going to get it perfect. So there's a few ways you can fix that. If you hit the space bar, we come up with this nice cube thing. If you just click on any of these faces, it'll take us to that angle. So hit space, we can come and look on it straight head on. Another way is if you right click on your sketch, hit normal to, there we go. We're looking at it straight on again. So I'm just going to take this spline and go up, around like that, and that looks about good. Hit escape. Now I've got this spline. It might be a little bit too harsh. I think I need to straighten it out a little bit. Oops. Splines can be a little bit tricky to work with. There we go. And we don't have to be looking straight at the sketch to edit it, but sometimes it's easier. Okay. I'm going to exit this sketch, and now we've got two sketches. I called them Sketch 1 and Sketch 2, which can get confusing, especially if you imagine we have lots of features and lots of sketches over here. That'll get confusing real quick. So we can solve that just by right-clicking on it and rename tree item. I'm just going to call this our profile. Call it whatever you want. And this one I'm going to call the path. This is the same terminology that we'll see when we use the sweep tool, but it doesn't have to be called that. Back over in features, we can use the sweep tool, and over here, see, it says profile. This box is looking for a profile, and over here, this box is looking for a path. So we click on this. The profile is what we want to extrude, and the path, rather than being a straight line, we have this nice curve. If we click on that, now we can see it's extruded this around our spline. And if we just accept this, not changing any of the other options there, you can see this cool shape that we've made. This is definitely not possible with linear or the Revolve. There's just no way, not really any other way to make this type of part, unless we do a sweep. If we open this up, you can see both sketches are inside here, and like before, we can edit either one of them. I can go into the profile here, say I want to make this 2 inches, and automatically updates. There we go. No problems. It just knows to do that whole sketch right there. Okay, so one other thing we can do the sweep tool, sort of a shortcut. If we right click and edit it, one of the options that we'll see here is circular profile. This can be helpful if you're just doing sort of like a pipe or a wire, maybe. You can do this circular profile and you don't actually have to do a sketch. You'll notice it's only asking for one sketch, the path. And we can change the diameter of this. We can make it huge. Maybe it can't do that huge. Nope, it did. Oh, I guess it knows that maybe 0.9 is the max for this specific path. But this is easier because we don't have to make a circular sketch. We don't have to make a new sketch with a circle and then make a path. We can just do the path and make a cool noodle thing here. Or we can go back and edit this and say, actually, we want to do a sketch. We want to do a custom sketch, not just a circle. And we want it to be that. And yeah, those are some really powerful tools. I would say most of the time, you're going to be sticking with these. I think that if you only knew these 3 tools, you could get pretty far with making models. In the next tutorial, I'm going to be talking about removing material, which is very similar, but similar tools. We're just going to be taking material away instead of adding material into our model. So Join me next time, and you'll get to learn about that.